Alright guys, in this tutorial we are going to be creating swimming pool. The first thing I do is to go to Pinterest. You can go to Pinterest, Google or anything and search for swimming pool. This is what I recommend when you are just starting. When you're just starting, you need to check and see the way what you want to create actually works in real life. So we have different ones, and the characteristics of many of these pool is what you are going to look at. See this, so we can see some caustics here, and this doesn't look like a real swimming pool. It looks 3D actually. So this looks much more realistic than that one, and also you need to be noting the lighting scenario. Of course, the setup really looks nice. On each one of them you can see this one, afternoon, sunlight. You see the way it looks, and you can continue like that. See this one, no ripples, no waves on it, very calm. So it is you that will determine what you want to create. So do you want to create a calm swimming pool, or you want to create a wavy ones like this? So it's going to all depends on you. It's going to all depends on the purpose. So but one of the things you will notice is most of the swimming pools actually are communicating something. They are giving information. For example, this is a close shot, very gentle as well, and it's showing that okay, there are garden, there are plants all around, so giving a kind of garden feel. See, this one is showing not only the swimming pool but some other little details, for the wall, for the fence, and the sitting area like this. It all depends on what you want to create and how you want to create it. So you cannot limit your imagination when it comes to that. So but you can see that we have wavy ones, we have the ones that are calm. That's the major thing for now. So let's go into 3ds Max and create something like that. So we are still continuing with our file that we used in the previous tutorials, which is the beginner's guide to 3ds Max and Corona. So if you have not watched it, please check it here on the page. So now we want to create a swimming pool. One of the things that we need to do first is to create cameras. So let's go pick our camera and choose Corona camera, and position your camera to capture the swimming pool. That's it. It's that simple. Okay, I've created 2 cameras. Let me delete this. Then come to the second view port here and press C and choose your camera view. This is it. So it's very low and showing all this, so I can drag it up, and it's very nice. This is a very nice view, so you can try it and press interactive to see what's going to come up there. So of course, anytime you are working with Corona, there are some messages, error messages that is going to be bringing. Some of the components used in this file are from V-Ray, so they were not properly converted. The materials. So some of the fall off map in Fresnel mode is not supported. So definitely, I need to change that and all. But it's not going to really affect what I'm doing, so I'm going to ignore it. A normal map appears to be using an input image with incorrect grammar. Well, it's not also going to affect in this case. Sometimes I will need to select all of them and make sure that I correct all those things that Corona is complaining about. But in this case, I'm just going to ignore them and continue. Now you can see what I have here. The swimming pool, view, very nice actually, and good. But one of the challenges I'm going to be having here is the environments look a little bit empty, so there's no much buildings, and I don't want to stress myself, creating all the buildings and all. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to change the camera view to something that will not give me too much stress to create. Now, this doesn't always work. Sometimes you need to do the hard work and create the environment. So, and what I'm going to do is pick the camera, go to the camera, modify camera, and see, all the settings here. So everything is okay. So I would like to move, very closer to the building here. And I'm trying to move as close as possible. Okay. All right. So here we go. And I'm going to give it a height of maybe 15 meters. Okay. So that 15 meters is actually nice, but I'm seeing the roof. I don't want to see the roof. So I can go this way. But before I continue to do any other thing, I discovered that as I'm going that higher, I'm going to have to change the image aspect ratio. So I'm going to go to the render setup and change it to HDTV. So now that I have HDTV, I see that okay. It makes sense because what informs it is in our previous tutorial. Let me try and see if I can get that previous. You can see that what we capture is more or less like a square from here to here, and we move it like it's almost like a square. So now that we have that, in this case we are covering from here to here and from here to here. So it's more or less like a rectangle. So in fact, it's a rectangle. So I'm trying as much as possible to create something that is going to make sense. So I'm going that, rectangular way, and I'm just going to adjust the camera. Okay, I think I'm getting something, and just adjust, and maybe I should move closer. I'm trying to eliminate that need to show the roof because I don't think the roof is quite what is needed here. So this is how to create your camera view. You just have to think about what you want to show and what you don't want to show. Still having that roof, but I might just have to leave it. But I don't need to. Okay, it's not compulsory that I don't show it, but I think it's okay this way. So now let's see the way it looks. Now this is nice. This is cool. Another thing is, if I'm okay with the sun, the position of the sun, fine. If I'm not okay, I can move the sun too. And you can see. So the most important thing is to find a very nice angle, both for the sun and the camera. So the reason for the sun is you want to still create very nice shadow and all that. You can see that in this that I created, you can see the way the shadow comes. So it all depends on you. There's no hard rule to it. Just make sure that you create something that is actually nice and believable. That's all. So I do this, and I think it's okay. I think it's okay to move the sun that way. So now we have set the camera. We have known that okay, a swimming pool can have caustic, and now is the time to create the water itself. Now this swimming pool is empty now. There is nothing there. There is no water there. It's just all the geometries, all the components, and all that. So how do we create the water elements? So the first thing to do is come to create tab and choose plane and just put the plane here like this. So make sure it covers the surface of the water, but it's not going above, the floor geometry. So if it is going above, you just drag it down. But in this case, I think everything is okay. So, or maybe I just go a little bit down like this. So that's what we have. And in the rendering, you see we have the plane and the sun is acting on it. And this is what one of the things I used to tell people. You can see that it looks losing its color actually. I don't need to even drag it down anyway. I think it's okay. So it's losing its color because the sun is actually directly acting upon it. But we don't have to bother about that. It's the water. We are going to set everything right. So also you will notice that inside this gazebo here, the water is going inside, and we don't want the water. We want the water to stop around the edge of the geometry here. So what are we going to do? There are many ways people edit their geometry to create things like this, but I always look for the simple and lazy way to do things so that I can move faster to something else. So now what I'm going to do is I will select the swimming pool water geometry itself and the tile geometry. The two of them, I'm going to isolate them, and you can see the way they look. So now let me stop the interactive rendering and create a cylinder. So for the cylinder, I'm going to just draw it like this. Like I said, I don't want to create anything that is too complex, so I'm just creating cylinder and bring it here. So check it, is it intersecting with the geometries? Yes. So I can bring it down, and you can see it's extending out here and here. It means that this this geometry, this pool tile geometry, actually this curve part is not following the radius that we thought it's going to follow. So I'm just going to try as much as possible to scale the cylinder and move it just like that. So having done that, all I need to do is to create a material. This material is what I will use to cut the geometry. So you go to materials, Corona, and you choose CoronaSlicerMtl and just apply it to the cylinder. Okay. So now I've applied it to the cylinder. You can see that this cylinder changed, even though we are still seeing the geometry, but it changed. So now I think it's okay that way. Let's render and see what we have. So start interactive rendering again. So it's coming up. So you can see now that we have cut through that geometry, but some things are happening too. some of the water geometry, the swimming pool tiles geometry themselves are being cut off, you can see. So what can we do to avoid that? To avoid that, we can go back to the material and exclude objects. So I'm going to click exclude, and I'm going to exclude all the swimming pool objects. So the swimming pool, so these are all the swimming pool objects that I have in the scene. So I'll select all of them and click on this arrow to move them to this side. That means they are now excluded. So by the time I did that, you can see this area is retained now, so there is no, it's not cutting it again. So okay, let's move on to the swimming pool material, the water material itself. But before we do the water material, let's go back to the swimming pool top and select it. So I'm going to give it much more segments. Here I'm going to give it 50. You can see the segment 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have that. The longer side, I'm going to give it 100. So you can see. So that's quite nice. And now I'm going to just create a water material. How do you create a water material? It's very, very simple. You can right click, create material, and choose, maybe Corona physical material in this case, and just apply it to the geometry. You see it changed. And the way you create your glass material, this is what I used to tell people. How you create glass material is the same way you create water material, because they are more or less, they more or less have the same kind of properties. They are reflective, they are refractive. So water material can have colors, and sometimes it might not have. So let's just for now create a black material, because that is what we are going to use for the water material. And you see it's black, and let's just put them side by side like this. And the next thing I'm going to create is how refractive it is. So I want it to be 100% refractive. So that's 1. So you can see the water material is not showing like this, but it looks frosted somehow. If I open the preview, you can see like frosted glass kind of. So what's happening is the roughness here. This roughness here means what do we call it? Glossiness. So now if it's on 1, that means it is opaque. But if it's on, let's say 0, that means it is highly reflective, highly glossy. So now we have high glossiness, but everything still looks somehow. It's really not looking like the water that we want. One of the things I'm going to set before I move on to do some things about the water is I'm going to set the IOR to 1.33. So that is index of reflection or refraction for water. So I have that, but the water is still not looking like water really. One of the things I'm going to do is to reduce the refraction to like 0.8, so that it's not going to be just clear water like this. So this one was 100% clear, and is not looking as believable as I would like it to be. So because we have this water surface that are bending, so it's going to be difficult to have 100% refractivity in such case. Now, how do we create the rough surface? There are many ways that if you search YouTube, you are going to see a lot of different ways to do it, but I find this one non-destructive. So what I'm going to do is, on the plane, I'm going to apply what is called noise modifier to the plane, and I won't do anything. I will just wait and see what's happening. Nothing is happening on the surface of the water. So the noise modifier will actually do create a rough surface on the geometry, and the best way to do it is to give it strength. So I would like to give it 100 on the X and Y axis. even on the Z axis, I'll give it 100 too. So by doing that, you have displaced the geometry and it's going to actually come out rough now. Oh, let's do region render. So you can see that the water surface now is not as straight as it was before, but it's still not looking believable. So I'm going to enable fractal. So for fractal surfaces, you can see now it's actually looking like water wave, but the geometry is still sharp. You can see all these sharp edges here. So what can I do to edit those? So what I'm going to do is to apply double smooth modifier. It's going to smooth out the surface, and now you can see it's not sharp again, it's actually wavy now. It's wavy, smooth waves all around. So, and with this, you have created a swimming pool. It's as simple as this. So if you feel like it's not, okay enough, then you can begin to set some things. But let's try and create another camera. I want to show you something, the difference between camera angles. So your camera angle is actually going to affect what you are working on too. So just want to show the way the water surface is going to look there, totally different from what it is look by looking at it from the top. You can see now that we have reflections. So see the water surface. We have reflections. We can see the water simulation perfectly here because we are not directly looking from the top where the sun is shining bright, penetrating the water surface. So that's the difference. That's the difference. I'm just deliberately, using this to show you how things look from different perspectives. So what you can do now is go back to the other camera, which is camera 2, and let's do one more thing. So when you create water, when you snap, like I showed you from here, when you snap in the afternoon, look at this. So a hot afternoon like this, and you can see the way the water is. So the sun is coming directly on the water surface, and because of the rough surface that water have, the wavy surface, then we have this caustic. So in this case, we have the same situation here where light is coming directly on top of the water surface and penetrating into the inside of the pool. So what you can do then is to come to render setup here, and you go to performance. Under performance, you see caustic solver. You will enable it, so it's going to create caustic for you. And after you have enabled it, caustic is not shown, right? It's not showing any caustic. So the next thing to do is probably to check the light that is penetrating that water. So check it, and you see that okay, generate caustic is enabled. Now, how does caustic work? So what are caustics? So I will encourage you to read this Chaos blog, what are caustics and how to render them right away. You can see these are caustics. Caustics actually bend. They are lights that are bent, on a reflective and refractive surfaces. So this is it. This is the sun hitting this object. So because this object is thick and it has specularity and everything, so it's not traveling straight. It bends. You can see it bends and bends again. So one direct light is coming, it hits a surface. The reflectivity of that light change direction. This is peculiarity again. It hits a surface, so which is a diffuse surface, and when the camera is capturing, it's going to see this. You can see it's going to see the caustic as this. So it's as simple as that. It happens on almost every reflective and refractive, object. You can see light comes into the glass. The glass is thick, so it will bend the light. So that's it. It happens, every time. You can see. So read that article, is going to really help you. But we've enabled caustic on the light. We've enabled it in the render settings, but we still don't have caustic here. So what's going on? We have not enabled caustic on the material. So don't let me forget to rename this material to water surface. We are just going to go down to where we have refraction, and you are going to see in front of refraction we have caustic. They put into bracket that it is low because it's going to take time to calculate, but really the calculation is fast enough as far as I'm concerned, in Corona. So now it is loading again, trying to create, and it's going to take a little while. You can see that the water surface also change while it is computing. It's just a normal thing. So we are just going to wait for it and let it calculate. Now you can see that the caustic is beginning to show. You can see it's taking time to calculate. That's what happened with caustic. So one of the things that I used to do when Corona is taking time to calculate a particular area is to actually calculate it bit by bit like this. Corona is quite awesome in that regard. So I can pick this side too. Pick this side. At least to have a faster calculation. So it's still going to take a little while, but you can see that the caustic is showing pretty much more nicer, and now it's making the water surface to be much more believable. So we're just going to wait for it a little bit, and there is nothing much really to do than to just wait for it to finish the calculation. If it is nice, then we continue to work on it. If it is not, then we adjust. And what can we adjust really? So majorly, if it's not working the way I want, so maybe I'm just going to adjust the scale on the noise. So I'm just going to adjust the scale. Let me use 50. 50 is basically, this setting is basically okay, but let me use 50. I don't want the water surface to be too rough. Let me use 0. If I use 0, the water surface, there is nothing there. There is no roughness on it. So if I use 10, you can see it's a little bit rough, and because it is rough, the caustic will take its time to generate. So that is what we have there, and we can still wait for it. It is basically what we said. This right here will determine how fast and strong the caustic is going to generate. So if 10 is going to give me faster results and it's still going to look believable, then I'm going to go for it. So I think we are good, but I think this z-axis I should change it to like 50, so that it's not going to have strong height for the caustic, for the water geometry rather. So that's just it. I'm going to stop it now and press render. It's going to render for a while, but instead of waiting for it, another thing I'm going to show you is here we have beauty pass, which is the main rendering. Then we have reflect, refract. If you remember that in the previous tutorial about the beginners rendering to Corona, I created those render elements. Then I added this. I click add and chose shading caustics. So now it's going to show caustics with it. When caustic is generated, it's going to show the water caustic here. So now I'm going to move to Photoshop. Let's say we have finished the rendering. I'm going to use the previous rendering that I've done with it. It's basically the same setting. So I'm just going to use that to do the post-production, and we are going to end the tutorial. All right, so in Photoshop, we are going to just click open, and we are going to choose the files. So I saved swimming pool, the reflect, refract, and the caustic. So those are the four elements that I have. So you can see this is the swimming pool. It's looking nice. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the refract. I'm going to press Ctrl A, Ctrl C to copy it. I'm going to press Ctrl V to paste it on the swimming pool layer. So I can close this one now. I'm going to come back to reflect, Ctrl A, Ctrl C as well, then Ctrl V. So also for the caustic, I'm going to press, you can see the way it looks after the rendering finished. Ctrl A, Ctrl C, then Ctrl V2. So now I can close all the render elements and have them here. So I can off each one of them, and this is what we have. So enable the refraction and change it to screen, and you see the difference, showing much more of the water refraction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it like maybe 20, opacity level to like 20. You can see the difference. It's just a little bit. Maybe let me use 25. Okay, so I think that's okay for that. So I'm going to put reflection. You can see reflection everywhere, and I want you to pay attention to these gazebos here, these umbrellas, and this area. So if I put it on screen, you can see how those areas, how they come to life. See the difference. See, so but it's too much, especially on the water surface. No, it's not much on the water surface, but you can see the ladder that you are going to climb. They are too much, so I'm going to reduce them a little, and possibly put a layer mask and press B on the keyboard and change the brush color to black and remove some area that I think those are not necessary. So I have that. Then I can work on the caustic to put it on screen too. You can see it's too much. I'm going to just put it on 20 just to enhance it a little bit, nothing too dramatic. So I have this. It's looking nice, but I think this swimming pool area is just too bright for me. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to press Ctrl, Alt, Shift, and E together. So what it will do is it will merge all these corrections that I've done into just one image like this. So if what I always do is to group Ctrl G to group some of the elements. Now you can see there's no difference. But if I remove this now, you can see there's difference. If I enable this, it's not different from this. So that's what I try to do. So on this, I'm going to just go to filter. I use majorly camera raw filter right now. So I want to reduce the highlight that we have here. So what I'm going to do is, you can see the highlight is removed. Maybe a little bit of exposure, just a little, nothing much. So push the shadow, push the white eye. Anytime I reduce the highlight, I always compensate it with white so that everything is not going to look dull. So push the black too. So all these shadows are going to be stronger. And I'm going to show you the difference, especially around here. So push texture. Texture is also going to create a kind of contrast and sharpening. So clarity and vibrance. So now I've finished it. You can see the difference now. Look at this area. There is almost no contrast, but look at it now. It's toned down that highlight over there. And I think it's cool. So there's pretty nothing much to do here. I don't want to apply. Okay, let me just try and apply sharpen. Really, I don't think it's totally needed here, but let's just put smart sharpen. You can see how sharp everything becomes, and you need to be careful. You won't say, oh, because it makes everything sharp, I'm going to always use it. Sometimes it will just make your image look so bad. So maybe I should use 100 so it will be less sharpened. And this swimming pool area, let me put it on 100% and see. I don't think I need that sharpen over there, so I'm going to apply layer mask and press B on the keyboard and remove. You can see the difference. I'm removing the sharpen that I put on that. I don't want the water surface to be too strong. So this one is still rendering. Assuming I'm using this one, the water surface will not be as strong, as refractive as this is. But I don't want to waste the time, spending the time to render that all over again. And you can see we just remove all the areas that we don't need. So we have a very, very nice swimming pool, and that's just it. So thank you very much. If this tutorial is good for you, if you find it helpful, please kindly subscribe and comment and like as well, so that I'm going to be making more of this in the future. So thank you very much. In the next series that we are going to be having is going to be V-Ray, and it's going to be V-Ray for Revit series. So if you use Revit, wait for it. We have a tutorial for you that is going to give you a very, very nice understanding on how to actually work with V-Ray for Revit. So now, before I move on, you see here, this is the disadvantage of using even though it's looking nice, but it's not totally nice. So I'm just going to remove that sharpen that I put over there. It's kind of not looking well when I was looking at it from afar. So you can see all this. It can create noise if your image is noisy already. So everything is okay here, and I can save a copy. Swimming pool PNG main and save it. All right, thank you.